unless you want to. Okay. Welcome back to the 101. This is Michael Morris. This is the show for small business and entrepreneurs. Today we're going to take a little detour because I have a very interesting guest with me, Jessica Peterson from Lifeline of Ohio. Jessica, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
I want to tell you why you're on. Number one, because of a close friend of mine, Jamie.
Yes.
She and I were talking about what you guys do, and I thought this is a perfect way to get something new on the show. So you're not really an entrepreneur, small business. However, you have a very specific need and a need to get that message out. So first of all, can you give us a little background on yourself?
Sure. So, Jessica Peterson, I'm Media and Public Relations Coordinator for Lifeline of Ohio. I live in Worthington, 3 kids, 1 husband, 1 dog. Love my job.
If you had more than 1 husband and 3 kids, this would be a different show.
You're right, it would be.
So how long have you been with Lifeline of Ohio?
I'm about 3.5 years.
Okay. And what brought you to Lifeline?
You know, I lost my job up in Cleveland, and we just decided to move. Honestly, we really packed up our family and moved to Columbus. And 3 days after we moved, I got the job offer with Lifeline of Ohio. So it was awesome, and it's the best job ever.
So I've kind of looked at the things you've done on radio and TV. Can you explain what you guys do day to day?
So Lifeline of Ohio, we encourage Ohioans to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors in the Ohio Donor Registry. So we are out in schools, on radio and TV, every day trying to educate on organ donation, because there are just a lot of myths out there, and just really, spreading the word about the gift of life. It's pretty amazing.
Is this something, and again, I don't know this answer, I'm just asking, isn't that something they ask you when you get your driver's license?
Yep. So we call the BMV workers our front lines of donation, because every time you go, I should say the first time you go in to renew your license or to get a state ID, they'll ask you if you want to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. If you say yes, they'll never ask again. You know, once you're in, you're in. It's awesome. You can always remove yourself if you ever want to, but they won't ask you again. If you say no, they'll continue to ask you. So, so yeah, 98% of Ohioans register at the BMV.
How many? What's the percentage of people that say they will be an organ donor when they're going through that? Because you're getting, that doesn't happen when you get your temps. That happens when you actually get your license at 16, right?
Right.
Okay.
So if you're 15 and a half or older, you can make that decision at the BMV. When you're 18, it becomes legally binding. It's an advance directive. So
you probably don't call it legally binding, though. That seems a little intimidating.
Well, I mean, it is. It's an advance directive. It is. Your wishes will be honored.
Okay.
So I guess that's a softer way to say it.
Yeah. I was trying to think of what a softer way to say other than legally binding, like you must give me those.
Yeah. We honor the wishes of people who register to be organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Okay.
So that's nice and soft.
So if they, I like how you put that. So if somebody has not done it through their driver's license, that the next way to reach them is how? Like, how do you convince somebody to do that?
Well, it's honestly not about convincing. It's more about educating, because we honestly don't mind if someone says no to be an organ, eye, or tissue donor if they're saying it with knowledge in hand. And I don't know why you wouldn't want to be an organ, eye, or tissue donor, but we want people to make an educated decision. So let's say they say no at the BMV. There's brochures at the BMV. They can also go to our website, lifelineofohio.org. They can talk to their faith leader. Some people are not sure if their religion supports it. So we encourage you to seek out answers. We give plenty of education, but we want you to go that extra mile because we want it to be an educated decision.
So how are you've got your faith-based people you can talk to. You've got your website, which is where I found a ton of information I did not know. You already talked about that you can donate under the age of 18. There was something on there that I would like clarification on.
Sure.
Can you donate an organ while you're still alive?
Yeah.
What can you explain that?
So I can explain it a little bit. So Lifeline of Ohio, we deal with deceased donors only. So the living donation part is taken over by like a transplant center. So in Central Ohio, that would mainly be OSU, the Wexner Medical Center. So you can donate a kidney, you can donate a portion of your liver, and in very, very rare circumstances, you can donate a lobe of your lung for someone who needs a lung transplant. That's probably the not riskiest, but the most rare of living donation.
But it is needed.
But it is needed, yeah. So right now, as of today, there are about 117,000 people waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. And of that 117, 95,000 are waiting for a kidney. So the best way, the fastest way to get a kidney is to find a living donor. And living donors...
Because you can get away with one.
Mm-hmm.
I might have phrased that, but you can operate normally with one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually have one of our employees, one of my coworkers, just donated one of her kidneys to her cousin's husband because he needed a kidney.
I was thinking you probably could not be talked out of donating if you worked for Lifeline of Ohio. There's probably not a way, but it's not really my thing, right? I mean, it might be part of a job requirement.
No, it's
okay.
It's not a job requirement to be.
You would be a total heel though if you said no. I'm just here for the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we encourage all of our employees to be registered donors, and then if they want to go above and beyond, let's do it. Like, it's awesome.
Can they choose who gets... I mean, I guess if it was a family member, but is it something where somebody's willing to do it and then you can pair them up with somebody? Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I know just a little bit on this because, like I said, Lifeline of Ohio only deals with deceased donation. So I know that, let's say you need a kidney and I want to give you a kidney, but I'm not a match to you. So we would go to, let's say, Ohio State, and you could do what's called a paired exchange. So there could be another pair, just like us, that I want to donate to you, but we just don't match, so they can cross the kidneys.
Got it.
And it's really cool. And I believe it was on Valentine's Day this year, Ohio State did like a 16-way kidney transplant. I mean, it was unreal.
I can't imagine that Excel spreadsheet of trying to mess that up.
I know. I mean, it's because everybody has to be healthy. The living donors have to be healthy. The transplant recipients need to be healthy. And, when you're waiting on a kidney, when you're waiting on any organ, like, your health fluctuates. So those 8 donors and those 8 recipients all had to be at the exact same health status at that exact same time the transplant was happening. So it's wild. I can't imagine.
But you're very excited about it because that's what you do for a living,
yeah,
right? I mean, that is like the biggest, that's like your Super
awesome.
Bowl.
That's right. Like, because 8 people's lives were saved and 8 other people are just living their best life with one kidney. Like, I mean, how awesome is that? And a living donor will free up a space on the waiting list for someone who maybe they don't have a lot of family. Maybe they can't find a living donor. So, or living donors help those on the transplant wait list as well. So they're
So
heroes.
you really have 2 different, you've got your deceased, but then you have living donors. So it's got to be hard to get that message out to people to understand that, because I always thought of that was the donation as I was in a motorcycle accident or something like that, and you had to wait until somebody passed away. I think I watched ER like way too many times, and I was like, oh, it just perfectly happened with 10 minutes to go in the show. Yeah. Somebody, they wheeled them in, they got that.
Yeah.
But you have 2 different methods to deliver this.
Yeah. And it's, even when I started at Lifeline of Ohio, I've always been a registered donor. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the easiest job ever, because 1, who doesn't want to be an organ or tissue donor, and 2, it's like so easy to, get organs, because I just assumed that everybody had my thought, and I assumed that when I would pass away, I would be an organ donor, and that's just not how it works. So only 1% of the population dies in the manner that organ donation is possible. So,
I'm sorry. When
Yeah.
you say something like that, I have to
Yeah.
ask.
Oh, I know.
What does
I'm
that
going there.
mean?
So you have to be an organ donor, you have to die in a hospital, you have to be on a ventilator, and you have to be declared brain dead. So those very 3 specific requirements have to be met. And, you know, let's say the Grey's Anatomy motorcycle accident. Someone who passes away in a motorcycle accident cannot be a donor. Because,
Well, they didn't meet the optimal conditions. Then.
when you're in a hospital and on a ventilator, there's oxygen being pushed to your organs. When you're brain dead, you're dead.
Right.
There's no blood flowing to your brain. You're dead. So you are dead, and there's oxygen being pushed to your organs and blood being moved around your body so that the organs are being maintained while recipients are being found. So, you know, people just assume, oh, you know, if I'm in a car accident and I die, they're going to take my organs. And that's just not the case, because it's,
Well, they're
very
not.
specific.
Wow. See, I did not understand that. I was
Yeah.
thinking every single day there is organs or tissue available. But that's
No.
people should know that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad you came on, just so you could say.
I know,
Right.
because it's kind of mind-blowing. Like 1%, so 1 out of every 100 deaths.
But how does that make you feel that you have a whole organization doing this, and this is education that people need, because they might think I'm doing the right thing, and yet only 1% actually qualify.
But they are doing the right thing.
I mean, they are.
They are. Because, so right now, the state of Ohio has about 60% of our residents registered. And we are one of the top states in the nation. Nationally, I think it's hovering around 50% of Americans are registered. But every single one of those 50% of Americans are heroes. Because no one knows how they're going to die. And just by registering, they're giving others hope. And I feel like sometimes when I say that, that sounds hokey, but it's true. Like, me being a registered donor, I'm a hero. You being a registered donor, you're a hero. Regardless if you are actually able to give that gift. Like, you're giving someone hope.
Because you're giving them that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's back up and say, well, I didn't register because I thought that the doctors would let me die if they found out I was an organ donor.
Have you heard that before?
All the time.
Someone has said that?
Oh my gosh.
I think the doctors are going to host my organs?
My very beloved brother-in-law isn't a donor because he is for certain that they will let him die because the need is so great. And I have worked on Brian for 3 years now, and I hope you're listening.
Yeah, Brian. Or he could be watching it on Facebook Live.
Or watching it on Facebook Live.
There's no pressure, Brian. If
Yeah.
you're watching this, it would be nice.
Yeah, it would be really nice. And I'm trying to educate him all the time. But it's a fear of his. So let's say that Brian dies in the manner that organ donation is possible. Because donation is so rare, we would approach his next of kin, which would be my sister.
So they get the opportunity first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So we, and it's up to that family to make that decision. But, so just because the other 50% of Americans aren't registered doesn't mean they won't become donors, but it makes our job infinitely easier. Our jobs are not easy, but it makes it a little more easy if the person is registered and the family knows their wishes.
So we're running up against a break, but what I would like to do before we end this part is, so if 50% are registered, and you said you're at 60, the continuing education, I know that it's at the BMV. I know that you have your website. How important is it for you to reach more people? Because again, there's 40% of the population in Ohio that are 15 and older, right? Or 15 and a half and older. That's got to make your job really tough to find people to go and have this conversation with over and over. Because you don't want to do it one-to-one would be great, but you probably need to talk to 100 people at a time at least and hope you get 50.
Yeah. I mean, we are, and we can talk about it a little further. We just passed legislation that makes organ donation education mandatory in all Ohio high schools, which is awesome. And that just went into effect basically this month at the beginning of the school year. So we have educators all over the state every single day in high schools. Because if you think about it, if you're educating the students to make a decision, they're most likely going to tell their parents, and their decision creates a ripple effect. So we're trying that way.
You're doing the bank approach. As a kid, open a checking account for $100, and then as you stay with this bank and you grow and you get more people, I mean, it is. Yeah. You are.
I guess I've never really thought of it like that.
Sorry, I like to break things down into like an easy way. If someone was listening, they're like, I don't get it. Yeah. Again, that's how banks used to do it. Open a checking account for $50, and we'll give you a toaster. And then you stayed with that bank. And then when you got married and all these other transactions, you stayed with that bank because that's where you were educated, right?
Yeah, I mean. Sure, we can say it's the bank.
Yeah,
approach.
I mean, there's no checking account available with Lifeline. We'll just put it that way.
We'll put it that way. Yeah.
The educational piece, we'll just tie those together.
Yeah, because we have had instances where someone has died, they weren't registered, but their child or their niece or nephew said, "I was just in this class and I learned about this, and he should definitely be an organ donor." Like, it's been awesome. Like that happened. I know twice of last year.
That's awesome.
So it's working, yeah.
We're going to take a break right now, but when we come back, I want to talk about the types of organs that can be donated. You're listening to the 101, and we'll be right back. Almost 17 minutes. So we got about, that's what we want.
Okay.
Nobody wants us to take 5 or 6 breaks.
About 8.5, 9 minutes left.
Yeah. So we're going to come back, talk about what can be donated, and then I have some other questions in here. If we get to them, we get to them. If not, you can just come back some other time.
When did Lifeline of Ohio start?
We began in 1985. So we're going on our 32nd
year. And I think I was like one of the first people to sign up for organ donation.
Oh, thank you.
I remember that. I wanted to be an organ donor back when I was a teenager. I was going to Ohio State then when I was a teenager back in the 70s. Because my thing was, I had friends who were like, well, my religion doesn't permit it. And I would say, what the hell do I need my organs for after I'm dead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was always my thing. Just like I want to be cremated. I don't want to take up space in the ground. I want to be cremated and my ashes flushed down the toilet.
I want to get one of those.
And I am dead serious about that, and I am going to get a lawyer friend of mine to make out a will for me one of these days. He keeps asking me, hey, man, just, come to my office one day. We'll sit down. You can make out a will, and they can make it official. I think you're crazy, but you can make it official. Yeah. I said, dude, I'm not married. I don't have kids.
Well, your wishes are your wishes. Like, that's what we try to talk about.
I got 9 nieces and nephews, most of whom don't really like me. So
perfect. They don't need your junk.
Exactly. I'm going to die after my mom dies. My siblings, I don't. They really give a rat's ass about me in the long run. My one sister does. No, I don't want you to think I have a dysfunctional family.
If they're watching on Facebook Live, they just heard you say that, and now they're going to give you hugs and kisses. All right, let's bring it back.
That's why they get 2 dogs. They're knowing I'm allergic to dogs. My sister's saying, don't come visit us. That's their way of saying that.
Beautiful. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm miserable because I got a bad back.
It's just another day in the neighborhood. Okay.
I hope Dr. Buzz is here tomorrow.
He will fix
Maybe he can give me a shot of cortisone. No, he doesn't do that.
No.
That's right.
We'll get you hooked up tomorrow. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's roll.
Welcome back to the 101. We're here talking with Jessica from Lifeline of Ohio. Thank you for sticking with it after the first part. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about the types of organs that can be donated because we really haven't touched on that. Yeah. We talked about the education part. What types of organs can be donated?
So the awesome thing is that by signing up, one person, so you can save 8 people through organ donation and then heal more than 50 through tissue donation. So the organs are, you have 2 kidneys, 1 heart, 2 lungs, small pancreas, or small intestines, pancreas, and liver.
And you're right, because these are all written down here. I wanted to see how many you get before you go, I'm missing one.
I always start to sweat halfway through.
It's all right.
Because there's a lot. It's a lot of heroes there.
Right. does that include eyes? Is that in tissue or organ? Can you do that?
So
That's a different
corneas,
group, isn't it?
Corneas would be in tissue.
Okay.
So Lifeline of Ohio, we say organ, eye, and tissue donation. So organ equals 8 lives you can save. Cornea, through cornea donation, you can give sight to 2 people. So one person doesn't need typically 2 cornea transplants. That just doesn't happen at one time. They may need 1 cornea transplant and then another down the road, but that would be 2 donors. So one person can give sight to 2 people. And then the thing that people don't know a lot about is tissue donation. So we talk about recovering skin for burn victims because they need that life-saving skin if they're badly burned. We talk about bone donation. So there's...
Not bone marrow, but actual bone?
Correct.
Okay.
Bone marrow is, we don't do bone marrow. So actual bones. So we have a volunteer named Matt that he had cancer in his leg, like in his upper leg, when he was 16, and they wanted to amputate at the hip.
Mm-hmm.
But he was able to get a bone donation, and they just took out the cancerous portion and replaced it with donated bone. And he's walking. At this point, almost 20 years later, he just had his first baby last year, and he can, interact with Nora and not be in a wheelchair.
Right.
So you can also donate veins, which we just saw this woman speak at our staff meeting who had like chronic bad heel pain for years. They transplanted 4 little veins from a donor, totally pain-free, hikes all day long, just living her best life. So it's, tissue donation is kind of incredible because one donor, we say they can heal or save more than 50 people, but the number is larger than that because, the tissue can be processed so many different ways. You can get paste made and put in for dental issues so that you don't have pain in your gums anymore. It's incredible.
That is incredible.
I know.
I wish people, and I know if they're watching on Facebook Live, your head's kind of turned, but you should see how excited you are about talking about this. Like, you can tell you really love this. It's rewarding.
It's supremely rewarding. And, we have about 800 volunteers. We cover 37 counties. And so I've met volunteers of all walks. So donor families, recipients, friends of people who have died while waiting. And donation of all kinds brings so much hope, and it is so sad, and it is so happy all at the same time. So it's just, you never know what the day is going to bring, but it's really cool, and I get to talk to cool people and, help educate, and hopefully someone will go register today.
What are those testimonials like? I mean, I'm sure that you have letters that come in or emails or whatever. I mean, it's got to make it worth coming in every day, because I'm sure there's hard days, but when you get one of those letters, it probably sets you off for a month.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's incredible. I'm so filled with emotion right now. I can't pull one, but there are very, very sad days that I will literally sit and cry at my desk. I'll just shed tears upon tears. And then there are days when 11-year-old Sam got the call for his transplant, and he had waited for, I think, 3 years. And just to hear that Sam got the call, his mom let us know, and it was like just insane excitement. And then just, that a child has passed in order for Sam to receive that transplant. But thankfully, that family made that decision. And Sam's rocking it. He's in like 7th grade now, into Pokemon, just a drummer. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Super incredible.
That's the one thing on your website when I was looking through some of this stuff, because reading some of the stories, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, I knew that this would be something that, I'm sure there's somebody emotional like you are emotional about it now, listening to it, because somebody's life is getting saved every single day.
Every day.
Probably 3 or 4. And you probably don't get the call every single time.
Right.
But when you do get that call, it's got to be
I'm just
elating.
getting chills thinking about it now. Those calls are far and few between because we don't know everybody who's waiting. But when we do personally know someone's waiting, oh my gosh, to hear they got the call, it's awesome.
My only suggestion to you would be those kind of stories. Like, if you had those to show people, your education would be so much easier. Like, we're doing the show on Facebook Live so that you can use it later to educate people. It's so much easier than, let me send you an email. But those are the kind of stories, if you send it, why you should be a donor. That's the only thing I could say. This is from a small business angle, is to send that, because you've got me thinking about my daughter and, you know, being able to talk to her about it. She's only 10 at this point, but in their school, it's going to get talked about. And I can tell you, when I'm 41, when I went to the BMV to sign up for my license, when they said, do you want to be an organ donor? And my mom's going to be mad if she's watching this, but she's very old school. So I was like, yeah, what's the big deal? And then, of course, it was, no, he doesn't want to do that. Now, things have changed as I got older, because I was only 16 then. But I didn't have any education. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And, of course, she didn't know. So it would just make it so much easier to see that these recipients, what their life is like after that.
It's pretty cool. We do have, we actually just finished a video for all the schools, and I think we're working on breaking that out for like larger mass consumption. But I hear you, and it is something we're working on.
It's just so
more
cool
videos.
because it's the testimony of somebody that actually received that life-altering gift. It means more if you can see it, because just you talking about, that's why I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because just you talking about it, it gives me chills thinking about it. But how many more people could you touch if they were able to hear and see that? Plus, that kid's a rock star, right?
Oh my gosh.
So I mean, that's
Sam's
awesome.
like so amazing. He's stupid awesome.
Good for you, little guy.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I'd like to have you back, because I didn't even get through, just so you have proof, there's a piece of paper here. I had like 10 more things to go.
I know.
But would you come back?
Of course I will. I could talk about this all day.
I
I
tell.
really could.
For now, we're going to end it here. But thank you, Jessica, for coming
Thank
on
you.
today. And then can you give your website real
Yeah.
quick?
It's easy. LifelineOfOhio.org.
Okay, perfect. You're coming back.
Okay.
And thank you for listening to the 101.
Now I
Just
just have to
hit
hit
that
that
little thing in the corner.
Oh.
Right.
Lower right corner.